tonight's story goes off the rails. Welcome to Urban Legends. Night after night, an unkempt man would hang around Newark Central Station in New Jersey. He always seemed terrified and was moved on several times, but the next evening, sure enough, he would be back, in the same distressed state. The man was reported to the station master, who came to the platform and asked him who he was and why he looked so nervous. The old man looked around and shouted, "It's coming for me. I done wrong and now it's coming for me." The station master asked what the man had done wrong. He replied that he had killed someone who had cheated him at cards, and now he was going to pay. The station master took pity on the old man and invited him up to his office for a hot drink and some food. He then sat back and asked the terrified man exactly what was going on, and he obliged. The old man said that his name was Edward Parker. He'd been in New Jersey for a few years now, having traveled up from New Orleans. Despite being homeless, he had been able to work odd jobs to get by and slept in the shelters when it got really cold. But only a week ago, a man who was known amongst the homeless as the Gentleman had walked through the street that Edward was sleeping on at the time and offered him a chance to become rich. Naturally, Edward said yes. All he had to do was win a game of poker. So Edward turned up at the address that he was given and sat down to play against another man, who he presumed was also homeless, as the Gentleman looked on. It was a tough game, although Edward was a competent poker player, but eventually, he lost. It was only when the opponent put out his hand did Edward see the edge of a card hidden in his sleeve. In a fit of rage, Edward pulled out a small pistol he kept concealed in his coat and shot the man. The Gentleman roared as Edward ran away and shouted that he was coming for him. Ever since that night, Edward had stood on the train platform for as long as possible. It was the only place he felt safe, as there were always lots of people around. He also said that he had suffered some terrible visions, and the man known as the Gentleman was something else entirely. Edward suspected that the stakes of losing the poker game were high, and he had ruined that when he shot his opponent. He suspected that losing would have cost him his soul. The station master walked Edward back down to the platform. He did not know what to do for the man. Edward suddenly started to confess all the wrongs he'd done in his life and seemed genuinely sorry for them. The station master looked at the clock. It was 2 minutes to 12, which didn't make sense as he could hear a train approaching, and there wasn't one due until 12:05. Edward looked terrified, as if he knew something that nobody else did. Suddenly a huge gust of wind blew through the platform and Edward shouted that it was coming for him. Passengers looked confused as they heard and felt a train, but couldn't see one. And a few seconds later, whatever it was, had gone, and so had Edward. The station master looked around, but could not see him anywhere. He then went back to his office and checked the CCTV, where he saw Edward vanish. The station master, who was quite shaken, poured himself some brandy and said to himself, he was right. It came for him. The express train to hell is a well-known urban legend in New Jersey. Some accounts say that the old man dies in the station master's arms, his soul seemingly taken by the train. In every variation though, the man has killed somebody who cheated him at cards, and the express train to hell comes for him. Many people say that you can hear the phantom locomotive on the 10th of every month at midnight and that it is driven by the ghost of an engineer who died on the tracks. Some have actually reported hearing the train at night, confused by the fact that they cannot see it and worried that they have missed their connection. If you're ever at Newark Station and it's getting close to midnight, you might just want to step back from the platform edge, because the train that's coming has a destination that you don't want to visit. That concludes tonight's story. I'll see you next time for more urban legends.